Waiting for the button. There we go. Now we're live. Hello, everyone watching at home. Thanks for joining us on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, Saturday morning, wherever you are. I have a special guest today. Never been on this little show before. So introduce yourself.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Sarah from Sweden. My handle or nickname on the internet is usually Herbertrands, which is a very weird name. And if you'd like me to explain it, I could.
Please, I was curious about that, so that'd be good.
I don't even know how long ago. It's like almost 15 years ago. I had this electric folk music band play in my hometown.
That's awesome.
Yes, they are awesome. And the name of the band is Her, or Herr in Swedish, which is the Swedish translation of Mr. And like Herr. And Bertrands is Bertrands, or Bertrand actually, without the S. In the end. And I was like starstruck, or not really starstruck, but I was amazed by their music. So I wanted to like have some kind of connection. And at that time we were hanging out on a site called, I don't even know if there is an English equivalent of the site, but it was like you post your pictures and you wrote like a commentary about it. And it was weird, and I just decided to use this, like the name of the band, but put together, and
no, that's cool.
I might have made their life on the internet a bit troublesome, because
oh really?
I mean it was the band's name, but put together without the space in between. So, and then after a while, I started using it on different sites, and I couldn't on one site. I don't remember where, but I decided, because my name is Sarah, it starts with an S, so I added the S in the end, and now I even have a site for my art, or a page on Facebook that's called Herbertrands Art. So it's like kind of a tribute to the band, I guess.
Guys, go like it.
If you like the art, don't just like it.
Well, do you have any that you could show us? Show the viewers?
Oh, we can show this one, I think. It's one of the newer ones.
Oh, that's cool.
It's quite Twin Peaks inspired, actually.
Yeah, I see the chevron pattern over there.
And like kind of the drapes.
Oh yeah. See, yeah. I love stuff like that. Like.
Thank you. I also have this one that I really like. This is quite typical of my acrylic paintings. I do mostly acrylic.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly acrylic and actually drawings. So I think that on my page on Facebook, there's mostly drawings. And I don't have any with me right now, but.
Well, I used to do a lot of charcoal, and I need to get back in charcoal. I was really good at charcoal, and then I stopped after high school or something. Here we have high school. I don't know in Sweden what you have. But
we have another thing.
But I started getting back into doing some stuff, and I'm working on some Twin Peaks art too. So once that's done, I will share it with everybody. Okay, so let's get into it.
Yeah. Let's get into
so you've been re-diving into the secret history of Twin Peaks.
Yes, I have. Well, actually, I discovered the book. It was released last year, right?
Last October, yeah.
Yeah, and I discovered it in like the spring this year. And because I was living in Spain at the moment, I didn't want to order the hard copy, because we were living there for a year, and moving back to Sweden, it would take a lot of space and it would be heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So I just decided to get the ebook and the audiobook. And the audiobook is perfect for when you're out walking, for example. And some sections might be a bit frightening, and like when you're walking in the forest and stuff. But yeah, so I'm at the point where they're talking a lot about the UFO phenomena and like
my favorite parts,
flying discs. I'm also really into like the UFO parts, which could be a bit like some people might not like it. I don't know. But I'm very like open-minded about that sort of stuff.
I think that's a good thing. I would say,
right?
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, you can't. I think with Twin Peaks, you learn you can't just dismiss things. I don't know. That's sort of just because I used to be a big skeptic. I used to be very skeptical about all that stuff, and something about when I started watching Twin Peaks and getting into David Lynch's work and reading Mark Frost's books, that my brain started changing, my perspective on that started changing. I'm like, why wouldn't it be real? There's so many things we can't explain. Why isn't this just another one of those things? Like, why is it?
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, for me, it's kind of logical, because I mean, planet Earth is such a small piece of the universe. Why would we be the only like planet or ball of materia that just out there with life on it? I mean, it might not be like us with fingers and eyes. It might be something else, but there's definitely life out there somewhere.
I think so. And we know what brings life, and it's a huge element in Twin Peaks. We have electricity.
Yes.
100Z Mad in the comments says, around the dinner table the conversation is lively.
Yes, this is actually my dinner table. So.
I'm at my desk, but this is our figurative, metaphorical dinner table where we're talking.
I wonder if that could also be a reference to the round table. And now I come into the secret history of Twin Peaks. I haven't yet revisited the place because I'm listening to it in the chronicle order of the book. But I am certain that they mentioned the Majestic 12.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and weren't there? I'm not sure, but the around the round table is also a King Arthur reference. But I'm thinking, was there 12 knights, or is that just
12 knights at the round table? I think so. I believe so. Yeah. Maybe somebody in the comments will correct us if we're wrong, but I think so. I think we're right.
So my brain didn't just make it up, hopefully. But that would be awesome, because then you have like the King Arthur reference, and you have the Majestic 12 like coming together and
everything. It's so overwhelming, but it's so great at the same time. It's just everything at once. And
I want to actually quote the archivist. I have some notes here.
Okay. Oh my God. You guys have to see her notes. They're incredible.
They're crazy. It's like the crazy cat lady, but with Twin Peaks. The crazy Twin Peaks lady.
You're in the right place, because we're all super crazy. Everybody in the chat I've been seeing all summer long. We know each other, so it's all the crazy people together.
So the archivist says, our minds are wired by nature to detect patterns. So the patterns of the King Arthur references and the Majestic 12 and everything coming together.
What's weird? Since I've been watching this new season, in my regular life, I've just been noticing a lot more connections, and it's really weird because I was never like this. But I'm like, wait, I've been seeing like a lot of similar names, and like it's really weird. It gives me goosebumps everywhere.
Thing that I've had with me as an artist, that I've for a long time at least, I've had a feeling that everything is connected, and I think that civilization at some point started to develop away from that notion. So that's why we have like kind of a disconnected reality today. Going deep within the two first minutes or something.
It's really interesting, I think, because in one sense we're like less connected, but then way too connected with this kind of thing.
Yes. Well, we're more connected with our own phones than with each other and with nature. That's kind of what I meant.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love going outside, but I feel like I'm allergic to everything, so I have to stay in my.
Oh yes, right. No.
Nature's trying to kill me. I'm just kidding. I love outside, especially. You know, I actually have my pine tree candle over here. I can't wait till.
Oh yeah.
It smells like pine trees in my room right now. I'm trying to get the ambiance correct.
That's amazing. I need more of those.
But the one thing is, I really do love nature, and I love going out into it. But one of the things, I've been to Seattle, I've been like to Washington, not too far from where they made Twin Peaks, and it really feels like you feel the energy of nature out there. I don't know what it is, because I live in New Jersey and I live by New York, and it's just very city, so you don't get that nature energy. And I see them chopping down trees and all this stuff, and I get upset. I love the trees, but
that's like I mean, some people are very much more connected to nature than like the inner city people. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think that's something we actually see happening in the show, because we have this small town of people that are probably. Everybody's connected. Everybody knows each other in the town. Everybody's kind of connected to nature. They like going in the woods. Especially you see in Laura Palmer's diary, she likes going out for walks in the woods all the time. She likes talking to the trees and stuff like that. And then you have Benjamin Horne, who's more like a city guy, and his brother, that's a city guy. And they're so disconnected from that. Yeah. And they just want to knock it down and make the Ghostwood Estates.
Yeah. And I also thought like in the new series they show that with like Tracy and Sam and the New York parts, and going back, like you have the city atmosphere or whatever, and then you have the Twin Peaks nature kind of. Yeah.
You see the stark. Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead. I was going to say you see the stark contrast between Sam and Tracy, and then like Andy and Lucy, and how they're just
exactly. Well, I have some small things that because they were talking, or I was listening, and they mentioned in the beginning with the Nez Perce tribe and all that, and like with Meriwether Lewis and stuff, all that is amazing. One thing that probably most people make a connection with is the liver-eating Johnson reference. I don't know if you remember.
Vaguely.
It's one of the who is it? Is it the Chief Twisted Hair, when he's making the retreat to try to get to Canada? One of the settlers or whatever they are, they get like instructed by liver-eating Johnson, who says something about, well, you're gonna be damned because you're not doing what you promised to.
Oh yes, I remember this now. Okay.
Well, my first reaction or my first connection is that maybe an ancestor to Leo Johnson?
Oh, interesting. I didn't think about that.
I mean, we never get any like information about Leo's background or anything like that. So that could be how he is, or why he is
that
in
way.
Twin Peaks at all.
Huh. I honestly never made that connection. That's super interesting. And it definitely. Go ahead.
Well, I think TP is also mentioning like a movie. I'm not sure if it's like a real movie or not, but she's mentioning a movie about like a Johnson that's supposedly the same, like the liver-eating Johnson.
Huh. Liver eating Johnson. You know what? I'm going to do a quick Google search. That's why I like doing this live, because you get liver eating Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I bet the first thing is going to come up. Oh, so he was a real person.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not sure, but like I think liver eating Johnson is kind of a nickname, but he was like a real or real person.
I think the movie is called Jeremiah Johnson.
That's right, and she is quoting that in the notes or in the marginals.
Oh, you know what's interesting? There's something that comes up from New Jersey, the state where I live. The Legend of Jersey's Liver-Eating Mountain Man. And that's what the movie is based on. Huh.
Whoa.
That's super interesting.
And a bit creepy.
So he went... Okay. So this is crazy. He like went... I guess he was born in New Jersey. He was born not too far from here.
Whoa.
Liver-eating... This is wild. Okay.
Yes.
He's born not too far from where I live.
Crazy.
And I guess he just went all over the country.
And he might be like an ancestor to Leo Johnson. Oh, maybe that's where he got his temper.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Because all right, so we have some comments that came in. Clark Kent says, I found that the Twin Peaks fan base is split between those who want one ending and those who are happy with the finale, pointing to a create your own ending vibe. I'm for the latter. Anyone here reckon there is one ending that trumps all? What do you think?
I don't know. I haven't really discussed my feelings about the ending because I'm not sure if what I'm feeling is what I'm actually feeling. If that makes any sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. How many times have you only watched it once so far?
No, I watched it twice.
Okay.
Oh, by the way.
Oh yeah, you have the Diane fingernail going on.
That's also really weird because I read a lot about people being like not liking Diane anymore because of the whole. I mean, I wasn't too keen on the whole like
real life.
I don't know the whole thing in the end. But I really like Diane as a character. Nevertheless, like all of the pieces of Diane. Mm-hmm. Even the Tulpa thing.
The Tulpa thing is forever confusing. Hopefully in the next book do you know who wrote the dossier? Do you know who wrote it?
Well, I know what it says in the book. Okay. But that's also one of the things that I wanted to discuss. I'm not sure that who wrote it in the book, like what the book says. I'm not sure that's correct. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to think that maybe it's like a disguise for something else. The whole of the year. Like,
this is my idea of what's happening in the book. I think the dossier is taking place in maybe one of those, mixed up timelines, and not like it might take place in the main timeline, but the things are broken. Like they're not happening the way we remember seeing them happen in the old series. So this might be like the new history of Twin Peaks instead of the secret history.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
know. That's just my theory.
Yeah. And I kind of embrace it. I'm totally on board with all the like different the timelines being this at the same time and not at the same time, and I don't know. It's kind of a bit like if you have watched the movie Interstellar. Like when I watched that, I was like blown away with the parallels, and like you can look at what has happened through I don't know.
No, yeah. See, my only problem with this whole multiple timelines thing, I know David Lynch doesn't like consume that much other art or movie. I don't know how much he actually consumes, but I feel like Do you think this whole multiple timeline thing is happening too much?
I'm not sure to answer that. My basic feeling about it is maybe it's happening a bit too much for it to be like compromised set of time. Like the limited series is the 18 episodes or the 18 parts. It's the 18 hours. I think it's too short to just be skipping between the different timelines without saying so. But at the same time, I'm kind of if they wanted to do it, they did it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay, so another question. This is sort of my theory that it's the time. This is kind of a loose theory that the separate timelines are just basic. The whole dream. We live inside a dream thing, and we'll get back to the secret history in a second. Do you think that Mark Frost and David Lynch are subscribing to the idea that multiple dimensions is like happening in people's brains? Do you think like they're jumping from brain to brain to brain, and that's like the multiple dimensions? I haven't
thought about it that way.
This is the second I saw Cooper's face superimposed over. For some reason, in my brain, I'm like, oh, they're just gonna go to another dimension or another dream. So now I'm thinking maybe in Twin Peaks, dreams are dimensions. Like it's maybe. The same. It's
that's one really interesting. That's really interesting and really scary.
Yeah.
Like, if you start thinking about it too much, you're like, okay, every dream I ever had is actually another dimension that I could be in.
Yeah.
You're like, no, please, no.
That's what I've been. I've been having weird dreams too since the finale, and this is what I'm thinking about. I keep waking up. I'm like, this what? Okay.
Well, I was not here 2 seconds ago. I was there.
Yeah.
I have had some really weird, like, kind of disgusting dreams that I don't want to be dimensions that I could visit. So hopefully they aren't. But what I was thinking about when you mentioned dimensions, I also, because I'm also a writer, I know this is a lot. I'm doing paintings and drawings and write a bit. I started writing, I think, 18 years ago. That's a long time. And what is interesting is when I was watching, like in the beginning of this new season, I actually scribbled down that it feels like David Lynch and Mark Frost took like a peek at not maybe my idea, or maybe my idea, but not the actual script, but the name of my script. At this point, the working title is Beach Dimensions.
Say that again?
Like beach dimensions. Dimensions, but all the dimensions are beaches.
Oh, I like that concept.
So, like, depending on what dimension you are, the beach is going to look different.
Huh.
And it's going to give you something different.
When can we expect a release on that? You're gonna try to.
I'm actually writing it in Swedish, so it's going to be. I will have to finish it in Swedish first, and then I'm gonna have to make a translation as well.
I mean, yeah, that's a lot of work.
Well, I started it 18 years ago, so I don't know. It's just something I write on when I have the
ideas
feeling.
And stuff.
Yeah, basically just sit down and like, okay, now I write something.
Yeah, I write too. I'm a writer too. I know how it is.
Yeah, I know, but it's also because every writer does it differently.
Oh yeah.
Like Hemingway. What was it? Hemingway, I think he sat down like in the morning and he wrote for like 5 hours and then he did stuff.
I
think
It might have
I'm
been.
not sure.
It might have been Hemingway or Fitzgerald. I think Fitzgerald also did something like that. But they also worked together, so they might have had the same routine.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't do that, so that's why it's not finished yet. I guess.
For me, I think depending on the mood I'm going for in a particular piece, I'll write it at night. And if it's something a little bit lighter, if I need to write something a little more grounded, I'll write it during the day. Just because how I go through the day, that's how I'll base certain parts
cool.
on.
Yeah, I'm mostly most creative at night, so that's.
Oh yeah.
Usually when I get ideas, either if it's creative like painting, drawing, or writing ideas, or any ideas with Twin Peaks, like usually I get them at night, and I'm okay, the owls are at work here or something.
Okay, so
yeah, I'm gonna make a connection from the new series back to the Secret History, because we know that the fireman is supposedly good, right? And they mention someone in the history of Twin Peaks that at least Chief Twisted Hair, if you remember him, he mentions the Great Spirit Chief. I think that he might be the Great Chief of what they call the Sky People, of that like legend.
Oh, right.
And the Great Spirit Chief is also the one who helped Chief Joseph. That's the guy, Chief Joseph, who did the retreat. And he went on this. He walked to the place where. What is he calling it? I think it's that where the mountain split and they have the great fall of water, and the place is supposedly somewhere close to Twin Peaks, blah blah, in the forest somewhere, and he supposedly meets the Great Spirit Chief
at Jack Rabbit's
and
Palace.
I think that sounds and I think that sounds so much like what happened to Andy, for example.
Yeah.
Or what happened to Freddy.
I haven't read this since. Yeah. They go into the sky and they meet. Yeah.
So I think that the Great Spirit Chief might be the fireman.
Huh. That's, yeah, you know what? You're probably right.
Well, I don't know. That's for us to decide, I guess.
Well, yeah. We'll never know if we're right or wrong. I think that's the beauty of it.
Of course, but it's to me at least it sounds a lot like that, and you know, it's easy for us now to call him the fireman because we know what a fireman does, and it's all of this with the development of civilization and everything. But when you're like the chief of a tribe, you call it the Spirit Chief because that's
what you call things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. I really need to re-listen or reread this because there's probably so much gold in this.
It is. Also, I was thinking because I think was it the breakfast stream where you talk about the ring? Mm-hmm. And I don't know about I've heard about I don't know if it's your theory or someone's theory about multiple rings, but I'm not so sure about how many rings there are, but I know that the ring is mentioned more than once, even more than twice in the Secret History.
Oh yeah.
And I actually made a little note about how it travels, because in the beginning it's with the Nez Perce tribe, and Lewis, Meriwether Lewis, gets it when he's going to probably Jack Rabbit's palace, where he hallucinates, apparently, I think, the fireman. And then he gets back, and then he's going to meet up with the president at that time. I don't remember his name on the top of my head.
Was it Jeffert? Was he meeting Jefferson? I don't remember.
Maybe. Anyway, he changes his course because he's afraid of the guys who's probably going to kill him or set him up or blah blah. So he decided to take the way through the lands instead of the waters, and he gets killed probably, or most likely by this guy. I don't remember his name either, but I think that this guy, I think it was a guide or someone who was supposed to be guiding Lewis, or at least going with him for safety or anything. And the ring disappears with this guy. And then I think that next time you hear about the ring is with Jack Parsons.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because it's Milford who's spotting the ring at this time. So he spots it at Jack Parsons. Also, it's always the right hand ring finger.
Yeah, the spirit finger.
No.
No?
That's the thing. The spirit finger from the series is the left hand.
The left hand, right. Ring. Okay.
But both Jack Parsons and the next one, which is Nixon, they have it on the right hand ring finger. And I think that not putting it on the spirit finger doesn't do anything for them. Like, because if you put it on the spirit finger, you might go to the Black Lodge, or to the waiting room or whatever it is. But if you put it on any other finger, I don't think anything happens.
That's a good question.
Because that's what Jack Parsons and Nixon. And then the new season, we have Dougie. And then we have Ray. He gets it from Jeffries. Mm-hmm. And then Cooper gets it.
And it's always, they always put it on the left hand.
Yes. So the ring always goes back to the lodge.
Do you think all the rings are, do you think there are fake rings?
It might be. There might be. I mean, not maybe rings that we have seen as the ring. Mm-hmm. But I mean, for example, the lady that gives Dougie the change in the casino.
Yes.
She has like a greenish ring, and that might be like a fake ring.
The weird thing is, the only reason I think that is because in Fire Walk With Me, they have the Formica table.
Yeah.
And there's like a little chunk of it missing. And Formica, and Formica wasn't created until the early 1900s.
Mm-hmm. So it couldn't be the ring from the tribe.
I mean, it could be because, you know, time is whatever. They could just make it with a piece of material made in the early 1900s and go back and give it to them. Or they could be just making rings because they think they're, you know, all powerful and stuff. They can make these rings.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how it would work if you had multiple rings. I mean, the ring is maybe representing something. I don't know what, but I mean,
I guess going by what we've seen now in this series, this new series, I guess the Owl Cave symbol turns into infinity, or the 8, however you want to see it.
Yeah, I think that's just Jeffries doing something.
Being fancy. The thing is, with that symbol, he uses the owl symbol with the 2 lines this way, but there is another symbol with one that points straight diagonally. Yeah,
well, the thing is, I think that the symbol we're talking about, this one, I mark all my notes with this one, like all the pages with notes. I think that is just because if you remember from the original series, Cooper is sketching the 2 different like burn marks or tattoos from Garland Briggs and the Log Lady, and he combines them as this pattern from the Owl Cave. And if you take that pattern, you can get either this one, or you can get the one with the little thing,
the extra line.
Yeah. It's just like where you cut it. So I think that the extra line is from the original series, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I'm going to go and look at the comments real quick and see what people are saying. Let's see. Ardent says, it's like a choose-your-own-adventure book from my youth. I love all the imaginative endings that people are coming up with. It's a whole added dimension. I think that's exactly what it is. It's like, okay, we're not going to give you a definite ending. Make your own. It's whatever you want it to be.
Exactly.
Which I think is awesome. But then again, if they decide to, which I don't think they're going to, but if they decide to do another season, it may or may not throw that out the window. I guess maybe not.
Maybe or not. I mean, they could make another season and they could still end it with an ending that we can choose.
Ambiguous. Just filling in a little bit more of whatever timeline they want to mess with.
The thing is, I am a bit annoyed with things like what happened to Audrey. Because she was definitely one of my, like, I mean, I haven't really been a Twin Peaks fan for that long. I think I started watching it in 2014, which is fairly recent.
That's sort of when I started watching it. I haven't been watching it for more than 5 years, maybe less.
And she's still like, she's been such, and I wouldn't say role model, but she's been like a TV series version or kind of idol, not idol.
Like a pop culture icon kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah, but also because I see so much of myself in her, like in terms of not caring what other people think about you, and she's been that for so. I mean, I'm born 1990. I was born 2 months before the season, the original series aired, and having her being that kind of character at that time, that's amazing. Like, you wouldn't have girls being that kind of, I don't care about what you think, I am gonna be independent. It was huge. It's
like she was born out of like the whole Madonna thing. She was like the bird. Madonna came along and she had that sort of, you know, image, and then I think without like Madonna and that whole like mid to late 80s kind of like, screw what you think, I'm gonna do my own thing. And I think go ahead.
It's so important to see what happens to her, I think, because leaving her just in the air, it's gonna, I don't know.
I'm biting my tongue until we get the final dossier, and then I think
that's true.
And then we could sort of, I guess.
I mean, even the ending in the original series, for me, it was like, okay, she's doing like the civil disobedience thing at the bank. It doesn't matter if she survives or not, because she did the thing that's really good for society. And she was doing it like her dad didn't want her to do it. She wanted to do it because she wanted to. And she did it.
And I think she has to thank Cooper for that, because I think before he came in, she was sort of, you know, just a teenager. She didn't really have any real motivations or anything.
She was just mischievous.
Yeah, and then he inspired something in her to, you know, do the right thing, and then she inspired her dad, who was like the biggest perpetrator in all of Twin Peaks, to, you know, turn things around. Granted, we had that whole Civil War reenactment thing happen because of it.
I love that part. I mean, it's
I do
weird
too.
Because when I hear people talk about Twin Peaks and they say, "Oh, I love that part more than that," I mean, I love all the parts of Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah.
It's just different feelings. Like, if I want that feeling, I would go back and rewatch that part. It's not like you can watch it as a whole, but you can also just choose your part and you've seen all of it.
Yeah, no, that's what I do. Sometimes I have episodes where I'm like, I want to see these scenes and I want to be in that mood, so I'll go back and watch it.
Yeah. Actually, just doing the re-listening of the Secret History of Twin Peaks made me start painting again. Like, I haven't been doing much painting since we moved back from Spain, because I have everything in my suitcase and boxes and stuff. So, and now I'm just like, oh, I want to do some acrylics.
It really gets the creative brain going, because I stopped writing for, well, I didn't stop, but I just wasn't writing as much. And since the series came back, I just had so many more ideas, and I started reading about the meditation that David Lynch does, transcendental meditation, and all those like sort of Tibetan kind of things, and just puts things in your brain, and you start seeing things differently, and it's exciting.
It's really exciting.
The chat, more and more people are trickling in.
Ooh, nice, welcome everyone.
Let's see.
Oh, I wanted to mention because I saw Cameron on Obnoxious and Anonymous. Obnoxious and Anonymous.
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 I know, when you put those two long words together.
I will say, especially since English isn't my native language.
Okay.
Because I speak Swedish and English. So English is my second language. So you have to have. Yeah.
You're really good with it. No problems.
Thank you. No, usually Swedes sound like they've spoken English their whole lives, because we basically do. But I was going to say, Cameron posted on Twitter this article about someone's theory that you should watch episode 17 and 18 at the same time. Did you read it?
I was gonna bring this up, actually. I was gonna wait till later, but we could talk about this now, because oh man, did you watch it? I haven't done the whole thing, but I skipped through it, and there's some scenes that line up very well, and it gave me chills.
Yeah, I only read the article. I haven't even finished the whole article. I don't need to, I think, but it's crazy. I think that's super clever. I would never have thought of that.
And I think it's interesting that there's an even number of parts. So I'm thinking maybe a lot of parts have parallel episodes that go together.
Then the question is, which episodes parallel which? How do you watch them?
What I'm thinking is, there's something that probably syncs up with the sweeping scene in the roadhouse, because that was such dead air. I have a feeling if you put something with that, it fills that space. I'm not sure which, but I have a hunch.
Oh my god. Yeah, it has to be probably something that has like a lot of dialogue during that. How long is it? Is it 2 minutes or
2 or 3 minutes of that scene?
Yes, so very intense. Maybe it's Bill Hastings rambling when he's interrogated by Tammy Preston.
Maybe.
How long is that? Anyone in the chat knows how long the Bill Hastings rambling about? We were going to Hawaii.
We're gonna go
scuba diving.
Scuba diving. That scene was so good, and why am I blanking on his name right now? Matthew Lillard did a fantastic job, but it was like that when he started talking about scuba diving, I started laughing. I couldn't help it, and then Albert goes like, "Fruitcake, anyone?" and I just died.
Yeah, well, it's such an emotional and hilarious scene at the same time. It's like super touching. And it's also super hilarious because, I mean, if I were Tammy Preston, I would have laughed in his face. I would not be able to sit there and be like, "Can you circle the picture and write the date?" I would be like, "Okay."
She's a professional. That's why.
Yeah, that's why.
That's why she has the job, I guess. Which
I must fill in here.
Sure.
One really interesting note, when they speak about the Blue Rose and they engage her in the whole Blue Rose Task Force, etc. And they're like, "Oh, we have kept an eye on you since high school."
Yeah.
She actually mentions in the Secret History of Twin Peaks that she was a history major. Because she's talking about the thing about Meriwether Lewis and the guy who's betraying the country. I don't remember his name, but he wasn't like his betrayal wasn't found out until he died. Anyway,
I know.
General Wilkins.
Okay.
She's talking about that. She's commenting, and she's like, I didn't know this, and I feel a bit ashamed because I was a history major. Which is interesting. I mean, how do you go from doing a history major to the FBI?
It's, oh man. I forgot about that. I mean, it's weird that they've been keeping an eye on her since she was pretty much a teenager, but I wonder if that's something the FBI actually does.
Like, if you get the highest score, they're like, oh, this person might be interesting.
I mean, I guess it's kind of like with soccer players, like they get scouted from when they're super young to join teams. So maybe the FBI has a similar protocol. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure if the real FBI actually has a Blue Rose task force. That would be
no, they have the X-Files.
And I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched X-Files.
Well, it's definitely. I mean, we have Diane. I mean, not Diane. Denise in X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go back and rewatch it, but I think Project Blue Book was a real thing.
Yeah, Project Blue. I've also listed all the projects that they mentioned. It's Project Sign. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if this is the correct order, but Project Sign. I think that was a real one. And the Manhattan Project. I know was a real one because that was like, wasn't that when they kind of let the people be in nuclear radiation without telling them and see what happens, sort of thing, kind of weird and scary.
Yeah.
And then you have Project Paperclip, which I'm not sure what it was, but I think it was a real thing.
Yeah, I believe so.
And Project Blue Book. I've heard about Project Blue Book before. I think that it's a real thing because I'm kind of into them.
I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
And then you have the Project Grudge, which I'm not sure if it's a real thing, but it's supposed to be after Blue Book, Project Blue Book, and then it turns into Project Grudge, but I'm not sure.
Let's see, Project Grudge. I think that's also a real thing. Yes, it is a real thing. These are all real things. This is Mark Frost and his obsession with this stuff.
Well, all of the projects are somewhat related to either like nuclear development or to the aliens or extraterrestrial stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
Because the Blue Book I know is about the UFOs and UFO sightings and stuff like that. I'm also a bit into, there is a man called Dr. Stephen Greer who's done something called Sirius, which is a documentary about, it's called the Disclosure Project. He collects like, how do you say, witnesses, I think? Mm-hmm. And he like
interviews them, right?
Yeah. And he also recently just made or released a documentary called Unacknowledged, which is really good.
This is I've heard of Greer.
Stuff. Yeah.
I have to watch that. I didn't know about that.
It's pretty cool. And he mentions Project Blue Book, so but we've confirmed that all the projects are real. Yeah,
they're all real. I mean, the way they're explained in The Secret History is all based off some of the like stories that came out of them. Who knows how much factual information he uses? But
well, he uses Dougie Milford as the character who introduces us to those projects.
Oh, right, yes.
So I'm not sure that, I mean, maybe Dougie Milford is based on a real person, but he is not real, right?
I don't think so.
Well, sometimes I actually thought about it today when I was out walking and listening to The Secret History of Twin Peaks. Sometimes when I listen to it or I read the book or when I watch some of the, like from the original series, it feels like it's a real thing, like it has happened.
Mm-hmm. It feels like an actual history book.
It's so weird. And I'm like, okay, did this actually happen? And then I have to like tell myself to realize that it's not real. It's just someone who uses real facts in a fiction.
He does it so. That's just like the talent of Mark Frost. He does it so well and puts it together so well.
He could probably rewrite history if he wanted to. Like seriously, he could like rewrite the history books and be like, no, it's the facts, and you wouldn't know.
You'd believe it because it seems so damn convincing.
Exactly.
I wonder if he's gonna. I'm really curious about the final dossier. I want to know what the hell that's. I remember reading some time back that it was going to be about a lot of the supernatural elements. I'm not sure. Like I don't remember where I read this. So.
I don't think I have it here. I'm gonna find my other notebook because I have the picture I sent you of the description of the different aliens. I know it. Sorry for the people in the chat who's not into the UFO things about the secret history, but this is like I actually researched the facts about the different, because they mention like the Lemurians and the Pedras.
Mm-hmm.
And they are supposedly two different races of aliens with different intents.
The Grays, I believe they're called.
Well, the Grays are even, I think, another race. Like the Lemurians and the Pedras. Maybe they are just like one part of like, or one branch of the thing. Here we have it. So, the Lemurian race, called the third human root race, which I have no idea what they mean. Like, is that like where we come from? That would be weird.
The third human root race?
Yeah. Like root as in the roots of a tree.
Yeah.
Which is really weird.
The third. Why is...
They inhabited the Lemurian continent, which is supposedly, I've read about this, but I didn't really write all of it down. It's supposedly an island or a continent that has sunk into the bottom of the sea or the inside of Earth in some way. And the memory of these beings were not yet developed, so they had to communicate with fellow men without, or they could communicate with his fellow men without needing language. So they communicated with like telepathy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It says this communication consisted in a kind of thought reading, which is scary.
Yeah. Thought reading. I'm trying to think of somebody. Do you think Gordon Cole is a Lemurian?
Maybe. I haven't thought about that, but it's really interesting because I've heard like abductee stories, and not like by themselves face to face, but I've heard stories from people who said that they were abducted and that the beings that communicated did it in their own heads. Like they didn't have to say anything out loud and they didn't hear anything. They just had the thoughts of the beings in their own head.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Teros is supposedly friendlier than Lemurians, and I think they were supposedly looking a lot more like humans, so they could live like among the human race, and there was a war going on between Lemurians and Teros.
A war?
And Teros needed humans. I don't know. This is what they say in the secret history at some point.
I don't remember this. I really need to reread it.
Well, I just have it fresh in my mind. I don't know about the rest of it, but they just mentioned this. And then you also have the Grays. which is the most commonly described by abductees. That's the like short ones that are gray with the big eyes and the big heads. Yeah.
Have you gotten to the Nixon and Jackie Gleason part?
Not yet.
Okay.
I also need to mention the Nordics because they are really freaking interesting. They are European-looking aliens that are supposedly like around 175 centimeters tall with blonde hair. And like they have different Nordic types depending on which star they are from. Like if you're from the Sirius star, you would have black hair, and if you're from the Orion, you would have red hair. And they are supposedly friendly.
Okay. Do you think this is Mark Frost trying to tell us like how modern humans came to be? Like, because at one point humans looked all the same, and then maybe all these aliens. I mean, we don't know for sure, but we could say we all started the same place, and I don't know.
Or maybe we started the same place, and then some of us wanted to go to the Sirius star, and some of us wanted to go to the Orion. So we went, and then like I don't know.
Somebody says the Norwegians from the Great Northern. ...
That is super interesting. I need to tell you this because it's hilarious. Being Swedish and Norwegian is a very, very close, like the languages. So when they speak Norwegian, like from the Missing Pieces, I think, when they're around the dinner table, the Palmers, it's like, it's hilarious to hear them speak in Norwegian, or even the Norwegians in the series.
It's all correct. Yeah, it's all.
Yes.
That's awesome. Oh man.
Maybe the Norwegians are supposed to represent like the Nordic type aliens in this, like retrospectively, maybe. But like that would be interesting.
Yeah, that is. I wonder how much of these ideas they had when they were filming the original series. I wonder how far ahead they had planned.
I mean, we always talk about like how they think of things retrospectively, but I think that a lot of things actually was already there when they filmed the original series, because otherwise they wouldn't have the original series.
This is true. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know how they workshopped it or something. I don't know how much backstory they put into everything, but I mean, but the beautiful thing about it is they could have planned none of this and just had Norwegians come over, because I mean, there's probably a real intent for that, and then after they were done, when Mark Frost sat down, or maybe I'm sure Mark Frost knew about a lot of this stuff before. I mean, like when they made the original series. So even if he wasn't being like cognizant, like, oh yeah, these are Norwegians. Oh yeah, there was these Norwegian alien types. Maybe we'll kind of make them like this. But again, he could have. I don't know. I don't know.
But I don't think that they look a lot like the Nordic type aliens are described. I mean, it's just a bunch of fairly white skinned guys that speak Norwegian, so I'm not sure.
This is true. Somebody recommended a book called Daimonic Reality by Patrick Harper. He says it investigates the process of othering that manifests monsters and aliens. By our belief in them, we give them life.
That is almost kind of how a tulpa works, right?
That sounds just like a tulpa.
Don't go imagining your monsters, because then they will be real.
This is what I was telling my friends yesterday, because we went into sort of like an old part of.
I saw the video.
We went into an old part of a building, and you know, one of my friends kind of believes in ghosts, and I'm like, I don't believe in sort of like a physical manifestation. I think if anything, ghosts are, maybe they're like communicating through ESP or something, some kind of energy, and projecting an image through your brain. So you think you see them there when they might not be.
That's really interesting. I don't know if I have any opinions on ghosts. I'm a fairly easily scared person. So I usually try to stay away from ghosts, at least at this time at night.
All right, it's late for you. I'm gonna freak you out.
No, it's fine. But I mean, I watched stuff. I saw like a documentary about this asylum. I don't remember what it's called, like Hotel Campalelo or something like that. I don't remember.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that is freaking scary. Like it's nightmarish. Like, and the craziest thing about that place is they turned it into university. Like, there's an actual school there, where in the same buildings as the asylum was. They're not using all of the buildings, but some of it.
They probably don't want to touch it for whatever reason.
Like,
you know what I think is interesting? When people go into these kind of places, these haunted places, depending on, I guess, your personal energy or experience or something, everybody takes away something different.
Of course.
Because I notice when I go into like these kind of haunted places with people that are more, I guess, scared easier than I am, they'll feel like a nervous energy, like scared. When I'll just feel like sort of like maybe the sadness or something, or maybe somebody that's excited to see, like I'll feel like excitement for whatever's there to like be with new people, like like we have guests kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's always interesting to hear people's stories. Like I'd like to have somebody who's a little bit more optimistic, maybe somebody who's a skeptic and somebody who's a pessimist, like go into these kind of places, come out and give their stories. Because I feel like the pessimist always sees like something scary. They like have something that wants that to get at them. Yeah. And then the skeptic, I don't know, they might have an experience, they might not, whatever. And then an optimist will feel like this positive energy, like something is like guiding them. It's always super interesting.
Yeah. What do you think about like ghosts in relationship to Twin Peaks? Do you think there are any ghosts in Ghostwood?
In the Ghostwood Forest? I think ghosts, I don't know, there's not much talk of ghosts in Twin Peaks. I guess there's spirits, which you could say are ghosts, but I don't know. I feel like the ghosts in Twin Peaks are just fairly obvious. Like you could say, I mean, you could say Bob might have been like kind of a ghost, sort of, but not really.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think the typical ghost or stereotypical ghost is mentioned. What I find interesting in the new series is when Audrey mentions, she's talking about Ghostwood, like the Ghostwood Forest, I think. And I just realized now that I associate that with like asylums. Like the Ghostwood would be like the ghosts from an asylum or in the buildings of an old asylum. And that might be because I have a feeling that she might be in some kind of psychiatric.
I'm thinking that too, but I think of course it might. I don't know like what to make of it. She might be like in a psych thing, but it's going to be some sort of weird like version of one. I don't know. I was thinking a spaceship, but that's a simple idea.
Whoa. My brain just
I feel like
she's abducted.
That's what I'm thinking. She's outside of all this time changing thing. I think she was just ripped out, and I think that's why you don't see her with anyone. I think she's outside of all this time changing stuff. So I don't think she's being affected.
Oh my God.
This is just my theory. Like,
and then she would be like in a UFO, like being abducted because they would travel away from the timelines and
they might be completely just like unsusceptible to all this time shifting. So imagine if there is a season 4 and like Audrey's awake now. She knows where she is. She starts talking to maybe the Grays or something. Maybe
whatever person who abducted her.
Because for so much talk about aliens in the secret history, I don't think we saw much alien or any. I don't know. We might have, but
one thing they mentioned, I'm not there yet, but I think because they have like an article or like a diary entry written by Andrew Packard when he was a scout, a Boy Scout. He's talking about this experiencing he had in the woods, and they mention that in relation to Dougie Milford's experience in the woods, and Dougie's mentioning that I think he says that he's been abducted, but I'm not sure. And then he mentions a huge walking owl.
Yep.
And I think later in the book they mention like what do you call it? Like memories that you create, masking memories. Because they mention Margaret Lenterman and Carl Rodd, and the other kid when they get abducted.
The other kid is Briggs, right?
No. It's a different kid because I think he leaves town and he never comes back.
Oh right, yes.
Because Briggs comes to Twin Peaks when Bobby is like a small kid. They write in the Twin Peaks Gazette or in the Twin Peaks.
Oh, that's right.
Like, welcome, Mr. Briggs. If you see someone in like dark blue, navy blue
that's
clothes,
right. Yes.
say
yes.
a welcoming hello or a welcoming hi or warmly welcome to our Major Briggs. Anyway, they mention when they talk about Margaret and Carl and this other kid that I don't remember the name of. They mention that
is it Billy?
They all talk about they all talk about an owl. They all ask like, when is the owl back, or are we going to see the owl again today or something? And I think that they try to tell it so it sounds like the kids are masking their memory of the Greys, the aliens with the big eyes, into an owl, because owls also have big eyes and weird shaped heads and stuff like that.
Did you get to the part of the book where you have to use... Did you get to the part of the book with the owl picture? The weird owl picture? Okay.
I don't think so.
Do you have a pair of 3D glasses?
No, and I'm not sure, but I don't think they work on the ebook.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about, though?
Yes.
Okay. So we always hear stories of like aliens watching us since the beginning, and I think they use in Twin Peaks they use owls as the vessels that aliens watch us.
Yeah.
Now, do you think now with all this alien stuff, and I think Audrey is probably with the aliens, do you think there's aliens watching all this stuff happen, the atomic bomb, all these like Earth spirits sort of just, messing around, and then we have do you think the giant or the fireman is above like aliens? Do you think he even exists outside of their reality? Do you think aliens are like sort of the material universe? We're getting in deep stuff right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I believe in like frequencies and energies and stuff like that, and maybe, well, the whole thing about, because usually most aliens are depicted as evil or like curious, or they're usually not just beings that are curious. They are usually like curious but kind of
with a purpose.
Nice.
Yeah.
They're like curious but investigating because they might need something that we have. And a lot of the things that Dr. Stephen Greer is talking about is that this is kind of personal, but yeah, I kind of believe this, that if there is life except us, like there, which probably is happening somewhere.
Sure.
They would probably have like attacked us already because we're not that strong and we're kind of stupid. So.
I mean, This
if you can create like disc-shaped vehicles that can get from one dimension to another, you're far ahead of us in technology. And I mean, even if we have the nuclear bomb, I think they might have something even like worse.
Do you with this though? Do you think? I mean, I feel like intention is important, especially with like. You think of humans, and the nuclear bomb might be unique to humans. We might have went down the path that it's like, okay, we're gonna make this bomb for this thing, and then the aliens maybe focused more on traveling to get information. We're always seeing them as somebody who. Aliens are always something that wants information, but again, it makes sense because they might have evolved to the point where information is the best currency. Like the more information.
Maybe. I don't know. I think that, as you say, the intent is everything. Like we created something that is like destroying. It's a destroyer, and that was the intent of creating it. And I think that if aliens had that intention, they would already have blown us up.
Like we're getting too big for our bridges. Like let's get rid of them before they figure anything else out. Or do you think they're already compromising us?
They might. I don't know. But I think that I don't see why they want to use us or how they would want to use us, because if they are that intelligent, they wouldn't see any use.
Us as a threat or anything, yeah.
No. So, I mean, what I was getting at is I don't like the fact that aliens are always, or in most cases, depicted as evil. Because I don't think they are. I think they are curious, and I think they are nice.
Do you think curiosity is a sort of just a default setting in like sentient life, like conscious life forms? Do you think like anything that like lives is curious?
Yeah.
About living, basically.
I don't know if about living, but everything is curious. Like I don't think that curiosity is uniquely human. Maybe we developed it so far that we started to be curious about why we are and how we are and what we are, etc. But I mean, I used to have a cat. You can see in cats that they have curiosity. They might not take it as far as me sitting in my chair being like, oh, why am I here right now and not for 20 years ago? But I mean,
Eva Katrina says, or aliens are advanced, evolved, time-traveling humans. This is another theory I have, that it's almost like a cyclical thing. We get so evolved that we invent time travel, to go out into space, evolve, become these different kinds of aliens, depending on atmosphere and all this stuff, and then we come back and like recreate ourselves. So it's like another cycle.
Yes, but why?
You're breaking up a little bit.
Why? It sounds like I'm like, is guarding all of humanity. I'm like, oh, humans, blah. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying, if aliens are intelligent enough to travel through dimensions, they are a bit more intelligent than we are.
Do you think they're? I mean, do you think? See, the whole thing with multiple dimensions and string theory and stuff like that. That's still. I mean, it's not totally proven yet. I don't know if it'll ever be like.
Does it have to be proven?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't have to be proven to us to be proven to other living entities.
This is true.
Oh, this is getting really abstract and deep.
Well, it's interesting. I went to the Hayden Planetarium, which is where Neil deGrasse Tyson works. I don't know, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
No, but it sounded really interesting.
It's in the Museum of Natural History in New York City. It's attached to it. So I saw an exhibition about black matter and how it's almost like a webbing connecting all matter.
Whoa.
So it's like a literal, like almost, it's not visible, but it's there, connection, like a line to everything. And I thought that
everything is connected.
it's like we're getting to a point where we're seeing the actual connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we maybe see it on a micro level, like an interhuman level, I wonder I'm just curious what that will bring with it. If we ever get to a point where, like, maybe we lift up like this little kind of device and we could see all of like the energy strands or something.
Whoa. I wonder if we would be able to like evolve as an organism or like this, because we evolved from, this is also a thing, I'm studying languages. So the first semester we're talking about the origin of language and how human language is different from animal language, for example. And the fact that we can talk about this, like in displacement, like we can talk about all these dimensions, but we can't be there, or even if we aren't there. We can talk about it. We can talk about tomorrow and yesterday, and we can talk about like the unicorn palace that doesn't exist, but we can create it with the displacement of language and the thought process and everything. And some animals don't have that, or most animals don't have that in their animal language or animal communication, which is really interesting. And why and how did that happen? And what is going to evolve from this?
That's a good question. I'm interested to see what happens. I'm gonna bring up this comment. Ardent's Heart says, if we define intelligence as the ability to recognize patterns, then the ultimate intelligence may be the universe itself, waking up by using all sentient beings as neurons. Indra's net.
That's really interesting, because I also took a astronomy class, and the first, I think, topic or the first module mentioned that the universe is actually just patterns in patterns in patterns. Like all the galaxies, they aren't just there. They have a pattern. And I think that is super interesting. Like, why a pattern when you can be just random?
Chaotic. It looks chaotic, but everything has a flow, and I think
exactly.
When I was younger, I used to think everything was just chaos and everything just didn't make any sense. And now I'm realizing, as I'm older, that everything kind of has an intention.
Yes. And I also need to mention this because I wrote down a few quotes, like our minds are wired by nature to detect patterns. I have a quote from Dr. Lawrence Jacoby from the Secret History of Twin Peaks, which applies to the whole new season, I think.
Okay.
The quote goes like this: life is but a dream from which we seem able to only rarely awaken.
Huh. We seem to but only rarely awaken. Interesting.
What if like the only waken part of the whole season was when they defeated Bob, or any random part of it? Like the only awakened part was after the motel scene with Diane.
It's possible.
Or the motel scene with Diane. That's the only awakened part.
I mean, that's the first time we see Cooper wake up since, I guess, the original series, maybe season 2, because we used to see Cooper go to bed a lot, then he'd have the dreams of the giant, and then this is the only time we've seen Cooper in like asleep and waking up. It's the original series.
And he usually wakes up and he's like, "Oh, it's 6:30, Diane, blah blah blah." And now it's like, "Where's Diane?"
I didn't even think about that, but now interesting.
And it turns.
Do you think that was? I'm under the assumption that in this parallel world, Dale is Richard, and that maybe that was the first thing, him not waking up and going right to his tape recorder and saying that. I know it's a different thing, but do you think that was the first step in him becoming Richard, the Richard of this world, of that world? If you know what I'm saying.
You mean when he wakes up at the hospital? Or
No, oh wait, I guess we see him wake up twice. I
well,
forgot
he
about the
comes
hospital.
out of a coma. I'm not sure he's waking up.
Mm-hmm.
If you see that differently, I
Yeah.
mean, if you make a difference out of it, I'm not sure. Maybe he's wakening up there.
100%. I don't know. I don't know. That's a
Well,
good question.
yeah, I don't know if I can answer your question about the Richard part, because I am not sure if I see Richard anywhere. Does that answer any questions?
Well, I don't know. I'm honestly confused myself about that still. I don't have any solid theories or ideas about what's happening there.
I don't even have any feelings about it. Like I don't think my feelings can comprehend that, the suggestion that they are making with that scenery.
Well, the thing that kicks me about that is that Diane seemed to the first time I saw that scene, especially the scene with the sex scene with him and Diane. First, I thought she was like remembering Mr. C.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second time I watched it, I felt like she was forgetting Cooper, and she knew she realized she was forgetting Cooper, and when she was looking at him, she was seeing someone out. Like she was forgetting the feelings she had for him, and she was seeing someone else. Because the last thing she does is kiss him before she covers his face. And I think I don't know. Cooper still remembers, so maybe the reason he looks so like just like not because he sees her like slowly devolving and he gets kind of afraid or something.
I never want to experience that.
Yeah, just
so weird.
Like you're with somebody you love and then all of a sudden they start forgetting you. Just imagine.
And you see that they are starting forgetting you. Oh my god, no.
That's what I think happened that scene.
I think that the article that we were talking about earlier, they mentioned in that like theory, because the whole article is about the theory that this person had. And I think they mentioned because in The Secret History of Twin Peaks, when they mentioned Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley and all the occult things, they talk about a ritual that's called, I think, the Awakening of Babylon or something like that. And for some reason, I don't see, I mean, Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons had a lot of like occult and sexual rituals and stuff like that, like dark magic or whatever you want to call it. But they never mentioned that the ritual, the Awakening of Babylon, needs to be a sexual ritual, because this person mentions that it's a sexual ritual, and maybe the sex scene is like that, but in reverse. Because what the Awakening of Babylon is supposed to do is open one of the gates to hell, I think.
No, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and they seem to like theorize about the sex scene being that, but in reverse. So what they're doing is they're closing the gate, or one of the gates, because apparently there's supposed to be 7.
Oh, that's right, yeah. I mean, it could be that as well. It could be more. I mean, I think that the whole thing with this, it could be multiple things at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's really, they left it so open. They left everything so open. You could really make anything of it. I mean, I'm sure they had a singular intent, but like the version in their head that they wanted to, and I'm not sure.
That's also a thing that I've thought about throughout the series and in general, because I'm kind of an artist and I'm a creator and I'm creative and stuff like that. When you decide to create something, you have this idea, right? And then when you let it go, when you publish it, or when you like put it in a gallery, or when you release it, you air it on Showtime, for example, you're kind of letting it go. You're letting your idea go, and you let your audience interpret whatever it is that you've done. So
this is true.
And I think that at least David Lynch knows this, and I think he feels this, but I think that Mark Frost also knows this and feels this. So they must have decided to let it be like this because they know that they have their intent of making this. And they also want their fans and all the audience and all the ones that appreciate art to interpret their way. So
I agree. I think so.
Yeah. To come to some kind of conclusion on the Richard and Linda and Diane and Cooper part, I have no idea. That's where I stand. I'm like, yes, he might be Richard. Yes, she might be Linda. She might just, I mean, I think that when he's inside the reception and getting the keys, I think, to the motel room, when she sees herself standing by the entrance, I think she knows at that point that something is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I took away from it. So I'm just trying to fix this little stream thing. She definitely knows something is changing. I'd say so. I don't know.
Just had an idea. Maybe she's in the car. She's like, okay, I see myself. And the second time they flip to the other Diane, that might be Diane. And when they go back to the car where Diane is supposed to be sitting, that might be Linda. So she's already Linda when they go into the motel room.
Interesting. See, these are things I didn't think about.
I just thought of it right now. I mean, she seems kind of hesitant and like weird about getting out of the car, doesn't she? I think she's like, what am I doing in this car? Kind of.
Yeah, mate. I don't know. I have to rewatch it again now. I'm not sure.
Flipping the ideas. Also, an interesting factor from the Secret History of Twin Peaks. Now, this is Carl Rudd, but I think it's printed in one of they mentioned several different newspapers, I think. It might be from the Twin Peaks Gazette. It might be from a different newspaper. But they had like a small section called Carl Said It.
Oh, yes.
I remember this part.
I remember.
And there's 3 different quotes. The first one says, it's all connected.
Okay.
It's all connected. Number 2 is, what is, what was. And the last one is, all there is now.
So he kind of just like throws the whole future past thing. He disagrees with that kind of.
Yes and no. I would say that if you put it together, it's like everything is connected. This is what I make out of it. Everything is connected, and what is, and what was. So what is now is, and what was.
Okay.
But all there is now. So even if it was like that before, the only thing that matters is now.
Okay.
Or not matter, but the only thing that actually is, like, there might be 4 different dimensions, and then there might be like a billion timelines that overlap or whatever, but all there is now. So even if you have the overlapping timelines, the moment you are watching is the moment that you are watching. You're not watching another moment, if that makes any sense.
I have to think about it a little bit, but yeah, I do get what you mean. That's interesting. I forgot about those quotes. I've more and more. I think I'm just gonna have to reread it. I'm definitely gonna reread it before the final comes out next month. The word "final" hurts.
Yeah, I know.
Ugh.
It feels, but that's also a thing. I'm starting to feel like even if was it you or was it Cameron or over at his channel that mentioned the final dossier? I think it might have been you and your friend from your breakfast stream. I don't know his name.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about the final dossier and it being final and done. And I started to think about, well, the final dossier might not be like the final statement. It might just be that it's the last dossier.
In regards to this case.
Well, in regard to the case that the dossier is covering. I mean,
yeah. No, yeah, that's sort of my idea. Excuse me. That's sort of what I'm thinking too, because we have.
Well, that's what I'm hoping.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm hoping, because in regard to this season now, it's called The Return, but it's called The Return for it could be called The Return for so many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the actual return of Dale Cooper. We have the return of Laura Palmer. We have the return of the actual show. There's return to Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I have a thing about what do we call the place where the fireman is? Do we call it anything?
I've been calling it the Watchtower.
Yeah, I did take that down as a note. Note it. One thing that I never got to mention for it, I told someone, but they were like, nah, I don't think that's a thing. When they when they aired the episode, I don't remember which one it is, the episode with Nido, when he's going through the
first one? I think it's 3.
Yeah. So you remember the first scene from the whole series, it's panning on the floor and up to the giant. So you see the floor of the Watchtower that we know now. And when you look closely at the floor, when he's entering where Nido is, it's to me it has always looked similar, if not completely the same.
No, yeah, I had noticed that too. I thought so too.
So what I've gotten out of that is I think that place might be on a different level, but in the Watchtower.
I mean, it does make maybe it's on the same like planet or something. I mean, it looks like Cooper went into the Watchtower and then ended up in that thing, whatever it was, somehow.
Yeah.
Because it is on that purple planet. So I'm guessing it is in the same something.
Maybe. I mean, when you see the Watchtower, when we see the Watchtower, it's only like coming from one angle. You only see one angle of the Watchtower, and then you go through the window, right?
Yeah, that little box.
Yeah, the window. So what I was thinking was, because it looks like it's on this like rock island, like it's a big rock in the sea. So on the other side, there could be a balcony where Cooper might have landed from. Yeah, because you see the waves coming in.
That's also the waves. When we first see them, aren't they still when Cooper lands? And then when we see it again, are the waves like a little bit rougher?
Maybe.
Huh. I just realized that maybe the second time we see the waves, it's a little rougher.
Maybe.
I might be making this up, though. I might be.
I don't know. I don't think I really noticed, but that's one of my theories, and it actually got really like blown off by somebody on the internet. I was like, but my theory. And I think that Nido, because we know now that she was Diane, I think that she might have been a vessel for anything good, like the firemen, like a tool for the firemen or something.
It's possible. Do you think Nido is like a separate person, a separate being? Because I just wondered like what that choice was. Was that just like an artistic choice by David Lynch that Diane is like inside of a Japanese woman with no eyes.
Well, there's a lot of things that you could think about Nido, like the whole cutting, the don't go there, all of that happening at the same time as the gray thing in the box was cutting Sam and Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that something happened to Nido, and she became like a tool for the fireman. So the fireman can choose to either use her as Nido, as the being that she is, or he can use her as like a vessel or a vehicle for people. Instead of making a tulpa, he can like put you in the vessel.
I feel like what Nido means something. I remember somebody telling me that Nido meant something in Japanese, but I can't remember what it is. Let's see if I can. In Japanese Buddhism, the term Nido literally translates to inner path, or one within the path.
That's really interesting, considering the fact that she had Diane inside of her.
Mm-hmm. Is Diane more important than Cooper?
Whoa,
I don't know.
Would be. Maybe she is now.
Possibly.
I mean, I don't think she was from the original series and all the way through, but maybe the focus has shifted. Also, I don't know if it was you who talked about the uncle.
Yes, we talked about the whole uncle thing at the breakfast.
Because I have my little notes.
Oh, what do you think? What do you think the uncle is?
Well, what I wrote was the uncle, and then I squared it, and then I have 2 question marks because I don't know anything, and then I wrote who is it, and then I scratched it and wrote what is it. And also I wrote the Moonchild question mark.
Speaking of Moonchild, I have it on my bookshelf and I'm looking at it. I haven't read it yet. By Crowley, yeah.
That is an interesting book. I haven't read it, but the summary of it is just the whole thing, like the whole, I mean, even introduction to it in the Secret History of Twin Peaks is just, I think maybe both of them must have at some point read it or had some kind of relationship with it, because it mentions like the black and white wizards of the lodges. So
so much of this is like inspired by that book and Crowley teachings and writings and stuff.
It's really interesting.
I could see like a young Mark Frost in like high school or something, just like in the library or something, just pulling out all these satanic black magic books and reading them and becoming crazed. I don't know.
Yeah, I also had a list of all the lodge spirits, but then, I mean, who knows who else is a lodge spirit at this point?
I think the whole lodge thing is really getting at me, because I'm wondering how I'm wondering how much power they actually have, and are people able? Because now we see that Cooper did the thing with his hand and opened up the curtains, and he seems to be commanding Mike, and he knows that he could just make tulpas like whatever he wants.
One of the things I've been getting at is the Mike thing. I don't think that the person in the lodge, the one-armed man that we meet and see throughout the season, I don't think that's Mike. I think that is Philip Gerard stuck in the waiting room. Because he's credited as Philip Gerard.
I forgot about that, yeah.
Well, I also think that because when he is leading Cooper to the convenience store, he's like shifting. I don't know if you noticed, but like the face shifts and like the parents changes a little bit. Like not not from one way to another, but like the way they're filming everything is like shaky and stuff like that, and it looks like the facial appearance shifts a little bit within the way of filming or the way of expressing it. And I think that what we see is Mike taking form while leading him to the convenience store.
Interesting. I didn't notice that. I guess my eye was too like focused on Cooper and watching him, but I didn't pay attention to Mike.
Because the whole scene is like shaky, right?
Huh?
The whole scene there when they're, I don't remember where they are. They're like in the when he leads him through the forest into the stair where the staircase is before the jumping man.
They're doing their fire walk.
During the firework or before, either before or during. I think that there is a shaky scene with the two of them like this in the face.
Do you think that now I remember. Do you think that walk, that weird like walking through the black, do you think that was the walk with me part? And do you think fire is like almost like a magic word to teleport? Because I'm starting to think, because of how he says electricity after the Philip Jeffries scene, I'm thinking fire and then walk with me is like separate. I don't think it's together. I'm thinking he says fire, teleports to
like
wherever.
Fire as in open sesame kind of.
Yeah, fire. Like, and then walk with me. And then he walks with him through that hallway.
What I think about is the part from, I think it's The Missing Pieces, I'm not sure, but it's related to Fire Walk With Me, the movie. And they are at the convenience store meeting, and after the whole the man from another place is like talking to Bob about the Garmonbosia and all that stuff. He says Fire Walk With Me, and they do like a walk through the, I think it is through the waiting room.
Yeah, or the waiting room. So I wonder if they go.
That's also a thing. I mean, it's an interpretation about the Black Lodge, the waiting room, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I personally, I don't think that we have seen the Black Lodge.
I'm starting to think that too.
I don't know. I think I've been feeling that since the beginning. That might also be because I'm a newer fan. Like I discovered it early.
No, I don't think we've seen the Black Lodge, and I don't think we've seen the White Lodge yet. I think it is the waiting room, because when I was on the pre-show on Obnoxious and Anonymous, the executive producer came on, Sabrina.
Oh yeah.
And she called it the Red Room. So she didn't even call it the Black Lodge. I think somebody called it the Black Lodge, and she said, "Oh, you mean the Red Room?"
That's so interesting. So, I saw that like afterwards. I didn't see it live. But yeah, that's really interesting.
So I don't think, like, that's why I've been seeing people call what I call the Watchtower the White Lodge, but I don't think it's that either. I think the White Lodge is on Earth. I think it's like an earthbound kind of thing.
I don't know what I think. I think it's maybe a state of mind.
Probably.
Like, because when they're talking, I don't know. It's just
I mean, no. I mean, I think it is. I think it's like a level of consciousness. Maybe, yeah.
Oh, there we have it again. The connection with transcendental meditation. Like it's when you've reached that. When you're transcending,
Nirvana.
That's when you reach the White Lodge.
Yeah, because that you have the whole Hawk quote about going through the lodge and like facing your shadow self. I think maybe the waiting room. I think it's almost seamless, possibly, that the waiting room and the Black Lodge are like you go into the Black Lodge from the waiting room, but they kind of look the same. Maybe the Black Lodge is the room without the couches and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, because in the finale of season 2, I think they walk around the red room or the waiting room, and the whole it's kind of like a labyrinth.
Yeah.
Of spaces with like that kind of floor and the red drapes and everything, and it's different parts with different furniture and different. I don't know.
No, yeah, that's what I think.
One thing I must mention that I think is really interesting about the waiting room or the Black Lodge or the Red Room or wherever it is.
Mm-hmm.
When they have the furniture there, like the sofa or the armchairs. I think Cooper is there, but I'm not sure. But I know that they have like a side table with what looks like
Saturn,
a
right?
Saturn lamp, like a lamp of Saturn. Why is it there?
Well, we have Saturn and Jupiter, I believe, is the statue, right? That's the statue of Jupiter.
Oh.
So it's like the planets align kind of thing. When Saturn and Jupiter, I think this is how it is. That's when the doorway opens.
That's when Andy is like the 4-H club, blah blah blah, and he's like, no, that's 4 and that's Jupiter and Saturn. Interesting. I didn't know that the statue was called Jupiter.
I believe it's Jupiter. Let me make sure.
Then it makes sense because my mind wanted it to be like, oh, maybe it's space related, astronomy.
Maybe it isn't.
Well,
Jupiter.
it is kind of.
Maybe it isn't Jupiter. Somebody in the chat know what it is. Am I making a fool of myself?
Well, we know that the babe without the arms is not Jupiter, but that's not the one that you're referring to, right?
I don't know. Let's see. Statue from Twin Peaks. Let's see.
Well, because in the hallway of the Red Room, we have the babe without the arms, as Gordon so nicely puts it. And in the waiting room,
Venus.
Venus.
Yeah, it's Venus.
Because
I should have known that.
In the waiting room, we have Venus, and she has the arms. Right.
Yeah.
She's not armless. But Venus and Saturn, but it's still like planet related kind of.
I think there's a lot of Greek or Roman mythology also at work, or referenced in the series, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother one.
It's so interesting because when I first got my hands on the Secret History of Twin Peaks, I was really intrigued by the Native American mythology and stuff like that, and I haven't really found anything. I mean, I found related stuff, but it's not like I've found like a book that says the Native American history or mythology history.
I was looking for stuff like that too, but nothing. I couldn't find anything really.
I mean, if you get like maybe not like specifically university courses or college courses, but like course material, course books, maybe you would find something, but just randomly on the internet doesn't get you that much. If anyone in the chat has any good resources about Native American mythology,
any recommendations,
hit me up.
Wilton says Roman Venus equals Greek Aphrodite. Yep. Yes. Interesting. Very interesting. My Greek Roman mythology knowledge has declined over the years. I haven't kept up with it.
No.
So
I'm not sure mine exists. It's very, very limited.
All right. So let's see. If anybody has any questions,
hit us.
Shoot them out.
If anyone knows anything about the metallic substance that they're talking about in the Secret History of Twin Peaks related to UFOs, that is something interesting. That is kind of what we were talking about when they alien civilizations might have developed and evolved into knowing about, because they're talking about metallic substance based on titanium and calcium and mystery ingredients and stuff like that. that is really interesting because it's supposedly super durable, I think.
Right, yes. They said it could, it probably move through space without falling apart and stuff like that. So, let's see. I'm going to look through the comments, see if there's any. 119 is element unenium. I think that's how it's pronounced. UNUNENNIUM might be that. Like from Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this in the Google search. Interesting, Arden. Thanks. I'm gonna put this in right now and see what the material. What is element 119? Interesting. Let's see.
What does the chat think about all the like alien and UFO connections? Because I was on Reddit for a while, and like I am really interested in the UFO aspect and the like occult aspect because I think that is interesting, not because I'm like an occultist. And I think that it was really interesting to read on Reddit that they kind of like didn't really have those threads because of a lot of people interested in Twin Peaks being Christian. And I was like, yeah, well, I mean, being religious doesn't mean you have to discard anything else. You could be interested in other stuff as well.
Oh boy.
But I want to I'm just gonna crack your YouTube channel open to criticism.
No, it's fine. I'm up for it. I've been dealing with so much the past week, but most of the people, even if they disagree, they're pretty nice about it. Some people are very like they're crazy upset when I say certain things, but whatever.
Don't be upset don't be upset of what I say. I'm just a person who likes different angles.
We're just theorizing. I'm not saying this is for sure anything. I'm not.
Exactly.
I don't know. This is just ideas in my brain.
Everything is relative.
Yes.
That's something you learn when you're studying language and linguistics. Everything is relative.
You're 100% right. I'm trying to look through
and everything is connected.
Oh yes. Language and black matter, the universe, everything. Unenium is the element with the smallest atomic number that has not yet been synthesized. It seems like would that be like aliens have already synthesized it? Possibly. Maybe using. I want to show you guys just real quick what I did. This is from week 20. That would be 15 to 21st of May, like the week leading up to the first episode airing. So this is what I do not on the internet because this is analog, but I post pictures of this because this is like a weekly planned thing. That's so cool. You have all the like days and stuff that I do, and then you have the red curtains. And if you notice, the text is made like the intro text. The green and brown. Yeah. And then I have this one. Black as midnight on a moonless night. And of course this nice quote. My log has something to tell you. That's cool. Yeah. So that was... I need to step up my planner game. Well, I do the bullet journal thing. So to keep my creativity going. This is... kind of super. All right, here's the history. I'm going really into this unenium thing. Unenium, okay. So according to Wikipedia, this is how it goes. Super heavy elements are produced by nuclear fission. These these fusion reactions can be divided into hot and cold fusion depending on the excitation energy of the compound nucleus produced. In hot fusion reactions, very light, high-energy projectiles are accelerated toward very heavy targets, giving rise to the compound nuclei at high excitation energy that may fission or alternately evaporate several neutrons. Holy Jesus. And then it explains what cold fusion is. So it seems like this is something synthesized basically in like nuclear fission, some sort of nuclear creation.
Isn't it like when you're almost like when you're creating the nuclear power, when you're like splitting atoms or like uranium atoms?
Interesting. Apparently they've attempted to synthesize this.
But failed?
It seems like they weren't able to. There's a whole bunch of equations on here that I'm not educated enough to completely understand, but wow. Interesting. This is like deep science physics stuff. But you know what? I would not be surprised if that's what 119 is referring to.
No.
119 is 119. A119 is also like a nuclear code, I believe.
So, also speaking of the 119 lady, but that just confirms that like skipping in timelines or dimensions. But when she wakes up, when her kid is coming back inside from the car explosion, she has a different like alcohol bottle on her table. She doesn't have a Jack Daniels as in the beginning. And I'm gonna see if I can find it on my computer because I made a screenshot of it. Yeah. So at the beginning she has like a Jack Daniels kind of squared.
I remember that, yeah.
And the labels of the bottle is black, but when the kid comes back in, the bottle is more like normal shaped, like bottle shaped,
like a vodka almost.
Like it's more rounded, and it's like this, but it's more rounded. Like I think up here.
I'm starting to remember.
The label is white, so you can clearly see that it's a different bottle, which is really weird because when the kid goes out from the home, the bottle is still like Jack Daniels-ish bottle.
And then when he comes back in, it's a different bottle?
Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of, it looks like it's empty. So, I mean, would she have drank like a whole new bottle of alcohol in like 5-10 minutes?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are people that could, but I don't think that's what happened here.
No, I mean, she had enough, I think, of other stuff as well I mean, she wouldn't be physically able to drink anymore. And also starting to wake up. I mean, she wakes up in the next scene, I think. It would be weird.
It's strange. Yes. Oh, here's the other A119. Project A119, which is also known as Project Bomb the Moon, where they were going to detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon to test it out.
Oh my god. Also, I think you mentioned in the breakfast stream. Hello. Breakfast stream. That in the Secret History of Twin Peaks book at page 119, there is a picture of the nuclear testing grounds facility.
There's so much. Oh.
Mark Frost is like, you need to know that they're testing nuclear things.
Yeah, he's like, you guys have to pay attention because something bad might happen if you stop paying attention.
Oh yeah. Well, one thing that we haven't mentioned is the gray thing in the box.
Do you think that's just Judy?
Well, we haven't mentioned Judy either, and we're not going to talk about her.
We're not going to talk about Judy.
No, but I think it's really interesting that the the shape of the thing in the glass box, like the experiment.
Mm-hmm.
It is already described in The Secret History of Twin Peaks when Nixon is inviting Dougie Milford and this other guy that I don't remember the name of, some kind of entertainer.
Jackie Gleason, yeah.
Oh yeah, he has the is it the library that he calls the mothership?
I think so.
He has like either it's his home
his
or
like
his library.
Yeah, I think it's his house that he had made to look like a UFO.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm calling it the mothership. Anyway, they get invited to watch this box. I assume it's kind of a glass box, but it's described because the glass that they're watching through is one of those like mirror glasses, one-way mirror.
Almost like the Dougie, the Mr. C scene with Cole and Tammy and Albert on the other side. I know it's a one-way mirror. I know, but for some reason in my head, well, not in that scene.
Oh.
Okay. But in the scene where in the part of the book where they go down, for some reason in my head, I just pictured like a parallel kind of thing.
Oh, you mean so they are sitting like Tammy and
that's how
Albert,
like
and I don't know. In my mind, I pictured like a small glass box. For some reason, it was like not bigger than kind of like my face. I don't know why, but apparently, probably it's a lot bigger than that. It should be. But the significant part of it is that it's one-way mirror glass in it, because I think that the glass is towards the being. So the being is only seeing itself being reflected. And I think that is why it doesn't crack the glass open, stabs them to death, because it only sees itself and not the people watching it. And I think that if they had mirrored glass in the glass box in New York, I think that the being wouldn't have broken the glass and stabbed Sam and Tracy.
What do you think triggered it to come at that moment? Do you think it was because they were like doing stuff, or do you think it was something else?
I'm not sure.
I wonder what parallels that scene. If there's something that parallels that scene further on in the series.
I mean, because we know that it parallels the of Naito, right? But we don't know if it parallels anything else or something else.
Yeah, I wonder if something triggers it to come out at that point. Somebody says it was chasing Coop.
I'd never thought that. That's one of the theories that I didn't follow, the thing that when we meet the American girl that's supposedly Ronette, when she's like, oh, my mother's coming, I don't think that is the mother, the being in the glass box. I don't think so. But that's just my opinion. That's just my feeling. So
I honestly haven't gone back to that, so I don't even... There's a lot of talk of mothers and uncles and stuff.
My mother's sister's girl. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like my fringe.
Oh yeah, you have the bangs.
Yeah. No, but I think maybe it's triggered. Maybe it's just when more than one person is watching the box. I mean, because the being in the Secret History of Twin Peaks appears, and they are three persons. This
is true. They weren't
like the energy of more than one person.
Possibly. I mean, because it had just been Sam that whole time, and then nobody else was supposed to go in there. And the second somebody else comes in there,
there's something there. Something comes.
I mean, I know we see the picture of Mr. C with somebody standing in front of the box, but I don't know if it's active yet. So I don't know if that counts.
Maybe we don't know what happened before or after that picture. I mean, it could just be something or nothing.
Let me see. Wasn't it banging on the space submarine thing? I thought it was after Coop is in our house now. No, it's in the space thing, in the what I call the matchbox.
Oh, okay. The space
that's
submarine. That was a nice
space submarine. Yeah, I call it the matchbox. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, it was in that room with the fire raw net for some reason.
Well, is it really? I mean, they climbed up to the space box or space matchbox or space marine sub. I don't know what to call it. The thing in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And then he climbed down again. Did he climb down into the box, or did he climb back down to the purple building room that he was in before?
I think it was, now that knowing what we know now, I think it just changed it to a different timeline or something. Because what does she do? She pulls it and you hear electricity. Mm-hmm. And now we know electricity is like some kind of magic word.
Yeah. Well, I think it's still in that. I mean, you see in that episode, you see Cooper falling down on the balcony of the purple building that I still think is a part of the watchtower.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that they changed like the inside of it, or because of the timeline change when Nido pulls the thing. And where was I going with this? Because the room, there's a door somewhere, and when it's changed, when Ronette or the American girl is there, something is banging on something else in that room. This is an interesting part where I think you remember when Cooper was in the glass box.
Yes.
And he goes out, or when he's being pulled out, the whole perspective is like that sound is the same sound as the banging of the mother.
Oh.
In that door. It's the same.
That like weird metallic sound that
that's what I've been feeling, at least. Like that sound is the same as also weird because the gray thing is actually destroying the glass, so I'm not sure the glass box is functioning anymore after the cutting of Sam and Tracy. But it would be the same if the gray figure wants to move or be sucked out of the glass box and into the purple space room.
I don't know. I don't know.
Episode 3.
That I've seen that episode probably the most out of all of them, because I thought it was just the coolest. Yeah. That in episode 8, but
yeah. I'm not sure. I watched episode 8 a bunch of times, but after a while, I get too it's too much emotion and it's too much. So I'm like, okay, I can't watch this more times because then I'm gonna explode.
See, me, it's like so thrilling. It's like drinking coffee. It's like drinking a really strong coffee. Thinking about it now, that whole switch of electricity thing, it just probably who knows what timeline this guy.
Well, that is, I've stopped trying to figure out what timeline it is. I just know that when something happens,
it's irrelevant.
It's just a different timeline. So, but what I think is the mother thing. I don't think that the gray figure in the glass box is the same as the mother or the experiment that is spewing out eggs. I don't think they are the same.
I don't think so either. But I don't know.
Of course, we don't know. No, nobody knows. That's my feeling.
When I first saw the experiment, I thought it was just like an alien. I thought it was one of the evil aliens from that is described in Secret History. And I thought the mother was just some kind of other. It's not an alien. It's like more of like a spirit kind of thing, or a god kind of thing.
Yeah, I created this. I think this might be my initial creation or reaction or feeling about it. It was the gray thing in the glass box. It's the same kind of gray thing that appears in the glass box or the box in the Secret History. And the like experiment that spews out things that could be related to the mother, because, for example, the mother of abominations is able to breed and create like evil stuff, evil creatures, and like demons and stuff. And that's kind of what the experiment is doing, right? It's like spewing out its like eggs. Yeah,
some kind of celestial Garmonbosia, whatever kind of thing. Because I mean, why would like a almost like a god need to break out and just like scratch them up? It doesn't make any sense.
Nah, I think that is an alien.
I think so too. I think it's just something. I think it's just an evil something. Maybe it's not. I mean, evil is like a human, whatever.
Yeah, it's an entity.
It just, I don't know. It was, you could say it was, it appeared in this box. It could have been scared, and like it breaks out, and these are the first thing there. The first like living
and it's just like defending itself because it thinks that it's gonna die.
We want to call it evil, but it might have just been freaked out. Who knows?
Yeah, probably. I would have been
like an animal.
Yeah, and I think the mother that the American girl is referring to might be either not maybe the other experiment that spews eggs and whatever it is, slime. And I think it might be related, but I'm not sure it is that exact thing.
There might be more than one mother.
Maybe the mother is Judy. And they refer to, because I've also started thinking about Judy a lot since the finale and the whole Jiao De thing. Like, it feels like, yeah, of course Judy is like the modern version, or the modern linguistically adapted version of that, and that's supposedly like an entity that is like all evil. No?
Yeah.
Or is that just my personal?
Do you think? I mean, Jiao De is like very humankind specific.
Humankind, like as in what the evil that men do?
Well, like it's a human, like it's a god that human beings
thought of.
It's an evil god, but it's our god, our evil god.
I don't know. I haven't really gone into that.
I haven't either. I'm just thinking.
My feeling when I saw the episodes were that maybe Judy is like Albert says in the original series, the evil that men do. Like, it's just evil. And instead of having Bob being the evil that men do, it's Judy, and Bob happened to be a part of it.
Well, yeah. I think the evil that men do is what created the ability for other things to enact that kind of evil on us. It like gave them permission.
Interesting, yeah.
It's like we'll do this to each other, so that means it's like, oh, it's okay for us to do it too, kind of thing. That's sort of an idea I'm playing with. I mean, you could also say that the atomic bomb like ripped open tore reality for those things to get in. But I'm starting to think it's like we almost gave other things permission to treat us this way.
That's really interesting. Yes.
So I don't know. Jiao De in Pinyin Mandarin means to explain.
Oh, no. Jiao De, how's it spelled?
Jiaodai, I believe. That's what Ardent in the comments is saying. So it's interesting.
The second part, Jiao and they, like DEI?
DAI, day.
I'm wondering because I haven't told you, but I speak Mandarin.
Oh.
I've been studying, so that was really interesting for me. I've been studying Mandarin for a long time.
Oh, man.
Jiao De.
Interesting.
Because if you you said D-I, wait. Spelling out letters in English is really difficult for me. D-I.
D-A-I.
D-A-A. A is A, right?
A, like A.
We're like doing circles.
I don't know.
Like in Sarah. Ah.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because if you spell it that way in Chinese or in Mandarin, in Pinyin, you would pronounce it dai, like Jiao Dai. You wouldn't say day.
Jiao Dai. Interesting. I'm definitely not a linguistics expert. So
no, I know because I've studied. So I would say if you say Jiao De or Jiao Dei,
it sounds like a god.
E instead of A in between the D and I.
So Jiao Dai.
Jiao Dai. What was the comment that what did they say?
They just said it means to explain.
Ooh, Jiao Dai. Yeah, you can say that the same characters for to explain with the same pronunciation would say it could be to explain or to hand over or to make clear, to brief someone, to account for, or to justify oneself. That's also interesting. To confess or to finish.
To finish?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. To finish.
But that is also one of the interesting parts of Chinese. That's the same word can mean so many different things.
Jesus.
Brain. Mind. Man. Brain explosion. Mind blown.
Yeah, for real. It's so. Oh my god. This thing is so layered. It's so hard to dig yourself out of it.
Maybe we should
get a golden shovel.
Golden shovels.
Dig ourselves out of the theories.
Ooh. What if you actually need a golden shower? A shower? Shower.
That's very different.
We're not taking any golden showers. Only golden shovels. Shovels.
Shovels.
What if you need one to come up, like, create the ultimate theory, or like to realize the ultimate theory? You think that's plausible?
I think Dr. Amp, or whatever he calls himself. I think that was more for us, like helping us dig our way through. I don't know if that's a key to the actual mystery, but
nah, I don't think so. That was just kind of a joke. Sidetrack.
Well,
but one thing that's really interesting is, why is he Dr. Amp, and why is he living in like a trailer in the woods of Twin Peaks when in The Secret History of Twin Peaks he moved to Hawaii?
Oh, have you heard the whole thing yet?
The whole thing?
Something happens.
Yeah.
Something happens, and it explains why.
I don't remember that.
Doesn't he get his license revoked?
Yes, and that's why he moves to Hawaii. You know?
I guess I don't know. I figured that's why he couldn't like get a real.
Oh yeah. Well, I understand why he's not Dr. Jacoby anymore, because his license were taken. But I thought that's one of the things that the earliest things that I actually put down in my notes, that I wondered why he's supposed to be living in Hawaii and not Twin Peaks anymore.
Tulpa.
But
easy answer.
Maybe, or timeline and dimensions, you know. Realities.
It's so exhausting. There's no end.
Nope. Also, one interesting aspect in The Secret History of Twin Peaks, Dr. Jacoby he's talking about his book that he wrote about, I don't know, living with tribes and trying tribes ways out. And he's actually, I think he's trying ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like describing the whole experience. And I immediately connected that to Jerry Horne. Like, what if he's trying ayahuasca and he's just like
having this. Yeah, they say if you have a bad ayahuasca trip, it could really mess you up.
Like you imagining your foot wasn't yours anymore.
Mm-hmm. I actually listened to a story of somebody who, went to the a shaman in Peru, in deep Peru, mm-hmm. And his experience was he started having the trip. It was like he was in the dark, and you hear like the sounds of the forest everywhere. And he fell into like this dream, and he was seeing he was like in space, almost like Cooper falling through the space. It kind of reminded, yeah, he was like kind of there, but there was like a big hand, and there was like stuff dangling off this hand, and it was telling, it like spelled something out, and there was like also little tiny spirits like fixing him, like working on him. And the spirit apparently told him something about, I forgot exactly what he says, but it told him something about being patient, like patience. It like wrote out patience for him. And then suddenly he describes it ending as the hand slaps him back down, and he wakes up in his body. And it's like it's like morning.
Whoa.
I would love to try it. Somebody says people should try ayahuasca responsibly at least once in their lives.
How strong is it? I mean,
I've never had it, but I've heard a lot of good stories, but I've also heard some bad ones where people are just sick the whole time. They like don't respond to the.
But what is it like? How different is it from like acid?
Well, it's a plant, I believe, so it's not synthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So
does it work the same way, or? It's a lot like DMT. It's like a very strong DMT, I believe. I don't know. I'm not fully knowledgeable on it, but me neither. So
it's almost like an extreme dream drug kind of thing.
Interesting. I mean, I like to know how it works with your brain. I mean, because acid is just like, I think it's like burning or boiling at a part of your brain, and that makes it like, this is just common people's speech. It's not like I don't know the actual terminology or anything about it, but that's how I figured acid works. Like it's kind of like.
I have no idea. I've heard that too, though. It's like almost like a like a tingling sensation.
It's sparking a part of your brain that you're not using, basically, I think.
Somebody says in the chat, I made my own DMT from a recipe. It was completely unrelatable alien reality. Cold and metallic, but unbelievably beautiful. Interesting. And then somebody else, Wilton, says the ayahuasca trip is endogenous. You trip mostly with eyes closed. That's everything I've heard. Ooh. It's like people like almost falling in like a dream, like a sleep state almost. Mm-hmm. And it seems like they always wake up into.
Oh.
I don't know.
Interesting. What if like the dreamer in the series actually had an ayahuasca trip?
It would explain all the intense visuals.
Maybe.
But it seems like, I mean, I don't know, depending on maybe where you take ayahuasca and who you're taking it with, and the mood. From what I've heard, the mood, the intention you go in with when you take ayahuasca is extremely important. And the guy, the story I told you before, the guy, you have to like apply to go to the shaman because he'll only accept a certain amount of people, and he'll only accept you based on what you tell him, like why you think you need this.
Why do you think you need an ayahuasca trip?
It's people go there. It's almost like a spiritual thing rather than just like you're trying to. So
I can see that.
They get a lot of soldiers with PTSD, and a lot of people with like a lot of people with depression or some kind of mental issues. Usually, some people that get out of a divorce or something like that. It's always somebody. Every story I've heard, somebody's coming out of something and they're looking for answers. And it seems like the shaman picks people based on what they're.
But you need the answer most.
Because if you have like some punk that's like, I just want a trip, he's gonna be like, get out of here. Like, no way.
You can buy acid.
Yeah, you could. But if you're like here for a reason, you want to like better yourself and maybe better the world, then come on this journey. Some people, Wilton in here says he's a regular ayahuasca user.
How do you get your hands on ayahuasca? Isn't that really difficult to get?
I mean, I know they have, some people grow it. I don't know. See, I'm not that knowledgeable about it. But,
I'm not that knowledgeable either. So
Rodrigo Vieira says read Graham Hancock on YouTube. He has lectures on ayahuasca and the active molecule DMT.
Interesting.
So DMT is a big component.
Yeah.
Hancock describes a sort of out-of-body experience into something like other dimensions. Wilton says, yes, the right mood is important. You are advised to abstain from red meat for a week, and a drug interaction is forbidden. Yeah, I've heard this. Some people usually see UFOs, snakes, theranthropes. I've never heard that word. And a woman in the likeness of a goddess. I've heard that goddess thing before.
Interesting.
I wonder if the location where you take it is also a factor. Like if you take it in the city, is your ayahuasca experience different from if you take it in the mountains of Peru or something?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because in people that take it in like indigenous locations in nature, I feel like a lot of their experiences involve like little, I forgot what he called them, but so almost like little fairies that kind of like come and like work on you and fix you, sort of.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you have it in the city, is it more, like city?
Small robots that come and
little robots that
brain.
I wonder if it's more like I don't know. I'd be curious to see what the city version of that would be. Good ideas for short stories.
I wonder if the shamans will take it in the city. They're like, no, you have to be around the forest spirits.
Terrence McKenna called the machine elves.
Machine elves?
That's what it seems like.
That sounds robotic.
All right. So maybe we might have to pick this up another day. We can do a lot today. We'll come on again. We'll have other people, so we'll have a whole table, a round table discussion.
At least 12 people.
At least 12 people.
12, the majestic 12. No, I don't know. I'm just quickly going through some notes to see if I have anything else that's really interesting. Anything in the chat?
Yeah, people are really into the ayahuasca talk. Wilton says anything in the environment can affect your experience. For this reason, the ceremonial master creates an atmosphere through the music, smell, and light. Yes, I've heard this as well. I know they use the Tibetan singing bowls a lot.
Interesting.
Which I like listening to. Sometimes it helps me fall asleep and relax. Hancock goes and takes it with shamans in the Amazons. I feel like the best people, the best experience I've heard of are always in South America. I don't know. Do you guys have any questions?
Okay, this is really weird. I just looked through my notes, and at some point I wrote down there's voices. And then like a linking arrow to lodge spirits, question mark? Like Leo Johnson in the original series.
Huh.
Why have I wrote that he is hearing voices?
Leo's hearing voices?
Leo hears voices. Anyone have any comments about that? I don't know.
I don't know. Therian tropes are half man, half animal. Okay. I knew I heard that word before, but I couldn't remember what it was. Nobody seems to have any theories about Leo.
This is interesting. I wrote down the power of the will.
Mm-hmm.
Could that apply to the Tulpas?
I think so. I think that's what happens with the new Dougie. Well, it happens with Mr. C. It happens with all the Tulpas, I guess, because we see Diane break out of the Diane Tulpa break out of her trance or whatever, her memory thing, and I think it's the will of actual Diane coming through.
It's really interesting. I mean, also, does it apply to creating Tulpas, like the power of the will? As long as you want to create a Tulpa hard enough, you're going to be able to.
I mean, sure, you could do anything you want. I don't.
In Twin Peaks, you can.
Yeah, really, anything goes.
Ooh, some notes about the seven gates of hell here. The ritual, the working of Babylon, calling for the elemental. It's also called calling forth the elemental. That ritual.
We saw a lot of sevens this series.
Mm-hmm. Seven gates of hell.
There's so much. The Majestic 12 were a group of people that manage UFO affairs.
Well, I think they were kind of the elite of the Project Blue Book, and then they actually, I researched this a little bit. They broke out, and then I'm not sure. I think they mentioned that in the Secret History as well. Yeah, here they're also called the Wise Men and the Study Group, or just the group, or M12. And they were headed, like the head of the group was called the Caretaker, and they all have code names based on birds. So the Caretaker is called Raven, for example. I'm not sure where this comes from. I think it might be in the Secret History of Twin Peaks, but it might also be something I found on the internet.
Possibly. I feel like I remember this in the book.
Yeah, it's also in 53, I think 1953, it was called the Gleam.
Yes, okay, I remember this.
And at 66, it was called Aquarius. The
Age of Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius.
Me too.
Oh. Yes. When's your birthday?
29th of January.
Oh, so you're right there. You're in the beginning.
Yes. Like a week in.
Mm-hmm. I'm on the 14th of February.
That's kind of... Is it kind of in the middle or in the end?
It's like It's towards the end,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still like another, I think, week and a half or something.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think that's might be it for today.
I think that it might be it.
Mm-hmm.
Arden said alchemists and hermeticists speak of the language of birds or the green language.
Interesting. See, I'm a really, like, I love studying languages. That's like super interesting to me. And what came first, the thought or the language? Like,
It's a good question.
also, I think that I've written down the color green. Like, you know, when they talk about the secret, or the, what is it he says? It's I think it's Meriwether Lewis, when he's writing to the president. He's writing about the experience he has in the owl cave.
Mm-hmm.
Or around that. Well, he gets the owl cave ring, maybe around the Jack Rabbit's palace. You know, that we established that he went to, maybe he met the firemen, maybe not. Well, around that experience, he writes down that the oh, I can't really phrase it correctly, but something about the deep secret, or the secret in the deep secret within the color red, I think he says.
The deep secret in the color red?
Well, he's phrasing it very specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's something along the lines with the deep secret within the color red. I know the within the color red is correct, but I don't know if it's the deep secret or if it's something else. But something about within the color red.
I remember this, but I don't remember the exact phrase.
Well, I think that is really interesting because we've gotten a lot of red stuff, like the red door, the Duggies. And then I also wrote down the color green for some reason.
Color like green?
Duggies. Yeah.
That's my favorite.
I'm not
my favorite color is green.
I knew it. No. I think because, like, Dougie's, what is it? A jacket?
His jacket, yeah.
Yeah, is green. It's like bright green. And like the owl cave ring is green.
Green. There's a lot of green. Also, did you know that the Dougie character is based off of an old David Lynch screenplay?
Oh, no, I didn't.
And also, in Cooper's biography, there's a...
My Life, My Tapes.
Have you read it or looked at it?
I'm like... I'm somewhere in the middle.
There's the tapes, and then there's like an actual biography.
Yeah, it's the My Life, My Tapes. I think if you have the audiobook, it's like the Twin Peaks tapes, and it's just from when he enters Twin Peaks until it finishes. But like the autobiography is from when he gets his first tape recorder is it for Christmas or his birthday or something?
Mm-hmm. I don't remember if it's his birthday or I want to say Christmas, but there's a whole thing about him seeing somebody die.
Yeah,
that's dressed just like Dougie. And I thought that
he's laying face down. I think he goes with his uncle again. Uncle. Yeah, I think he's actually going with his uncle to like his uncle's poker game thing.
Something weird, yeah.
Yeah. He's going somewhere with his uncle at least, and then he's like, "Okay, I found this man face down, and the police is here." And he's like, "You can follow." Like he's describing the person, and then he's like, "Okay, they're going to like roll him over," and then he's like, "Oh, I had to clean the microphone for my tape recorder because he threw up."
Interesting.
Very graphic, yeah.
So he doesn't see the face of the guy that gets turned over.
I don't remember. I think he sees it, but it might be like too hit up, too destroyed for him to see who it is.
Huh.
And that's why he throws up because it's super graphic. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, I remember that he doesn't describe the person's face or the appearance of the person's like facial structure or whatever. So
Wilton says the green color is used in the Dougie scenes as a means to signal one information is not false and that Dougie is manufactured.
You mean in the scenes when he sees the green flash on Tony's face and he's like, oh, he's lying? Or
yes.
In general?
I mean
the person in the chat.
Yeah. I don't know. And there was a green light on the Formica table is green.
Yeah? What is Formica? Like what is it actually? Is it the color or is it the material?
Formica is a material, I believe. But I did research on Formica. But the thing with green, it's also the color of renewal. So it's also the color of money, like money, ambition, like jealous, envy and stuff. So
it's weird. It's like I almost said it's like Chinese. It can mean so many different things.
Like you don't know what to. It's up to your.
It's up to your interpretation. It's also up to, I think, circumstances and the situation, maybe.
I've never went this in depth with a show. Or any other piece of art, to be honest, in my life.
Yeah. Well, that's.
The owl ring is allegedly made of the glassy green material from the Trinity atomic test.
When I don't remember the year. What year was the Trinity test? Like
40s, somewhere in the 40s.
47.
45.
But they have the Owl Cave ring. According to the secret history of Twin Peaks, they have the Owl Cave ring when Lewis and Clark goes to the northwest to explore.
Do you think there was?
Isn't that like the 1800s? Like
yeah, 1800s.
Century.
It's Stephanie says when she was a kid they had a white Formica table. Yeah, I think Formica is just died. Yeah. So I wonder where the convenience store bought theirs.
Maybe it was there. Maybe they just took it from the convenience store and put it.
They stole a table.
Yeah, they took it to the room above the convenience store and be like.
Because it's not a natural thing. That's the Formica. I don't believe occurs naturally in nature. So.
It's like a blue rose.
Aha.
Ooh.
Aha. So much.
Yes.
So much. Why? What's their fascination with fake things?
I don't know.
It's just lies everywhere.
Isn't nuclear also man-made? Like it doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist, yeah.
Until you make it exist.
I mean, and elements have come from nuclear, reactors and explosions and stuff. Just like what he just said right now. What was it? The owl ring, from the material from the Trinity atomic test.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could say that it's just it was probably forged in another fire, like just a bigger fire, a more catastrophic fire.
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know. There's a lot.
Shall we end it with the Garland Briggs quote?
Go ahead.
It is some men's fate to face great darkness.
There we go.
That was kind of a sad note, maybe. But
I think in relation to Laura Palmer, It's probably very true.
Yes, I think it's true to maybe Cooper's fate as well, according to the new season.
So, I think that whole thing with Cooper depends on your perspective. He's like a hero in an endless pursuit to save somebody who is destined to, die. Or you could say it's sad that he's trapped in this loop or something.
Yeah, but I mean, for him, it might be facing a great darkness. Even if the intent of him, solving the problem is good, it's still facing darkness.
Facing darkness, yes. You're right. All right, guys. That is it for today. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Thank you to my guest today.
Thank you.
I'm sure this won't be the last time you see her on the show. We're going to do another one probably very soon, and we're going to see if we can get more people in this, and maybe we'll center it around the aliens. We'll talk UFOs. We'll do a very specific kind of chat. We'll hit 3 topics, so we'll figure out what it is. I'll discuss with everybody.
Yeah, you could all comment with the topic you want to discuss,
People seem to want to talk about aliens more. Alien stuff more, yeah.
I'm up for it.
We'll talk about aliens. We'll get some more information about ayahuasca, maybe. And I think we'll just see where we are. I'll probably start rereading The Secret History, and you'll have more information, I'm sure. All right, guys. If you're not subscribed, do that thing. Do you have you want to tell people where they could find you on the internet?
Well, I'm on the internet. I'm on YouTube and I'm on Twitter at Herr Bertrands.
I'll tweet it out.
Yeah, and I'm also, if you like those of you who saw the planner thing, the week planning thing, I'm on Tumblr. I'm on Tumblr as Herr Bertrands as well, but I'm more active as Herr Bertrands Study, which is something called a study blur, which is a study Tumblr account that focuses on studying and being positive and motivation about studying and stuff like that. And you can find my art on Herr Bertrands Art on Facebook.
All right.
That's where I am.
There you go. All right, guys. You know where to find me. See you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.